Hello again, everyone. This video is sponsored by contribution from Mallory, and here's her story. Hi, Ollie. I'd first like to mention how much I appreciate your videos and the commentary on others' experiences. It always soothes me to know I'm not the only one who has experienced the terror of a narcissist. This is my first time explaining my story in depth of my relationship and a diagnosed BPD NPD man for 5 years. I'm now 21 and have still been struggling from the trauma of it all. I have nightly nightmares and I'm petrified of men. I met David online on my 15th birthday in September of 2009. He was in a Nirvana fan group on Facebook and I friend requested him as his profile picture was my favorite photo of Kurt Cobain. His profile didn't have anything public, including photos of himself or his age. Later that day, Howie accepted my friend request. His profile page had over a thousand friends, whom he later told me knew none of them in person, and his age was listed, which was 8 years older than myself, making him 23 and I was 15. He was striking and absolutely stunningly handsome, and we shared a for our favorite band, so why not send him a message, I thought. And this is where I made the biggest mistake of my entire life. I messaged David with a friendly hello. We exchanged names and where we were from. He explained he was from England. I myself was from Canada. We began to become very, very close online friends, constantly chatting via MSN, and we somehow fell in love. Fell in what I thought was love, but later found out he was grooming me. Howie would appear very mystical to me, sometimes talking to me every night for 5 hours, then disappearing for weeks or months at a time, leaving me to wonder where he would have gone, or if he had killed himself, as he was constantly making claims that he would do it. In March 2011, after having a very intense online friendship for over a year and a half, Howie claimed he was going to kill himself, telling me that he will go right that second to the train tracks and wait till a train were to run him over. I eventually soothed him and calmed him down, telling him I would kill myself if he were to as well. He always toyed with the idea of meeting me in person and having a suicide pact. After telling him that I would kill myself too, he seemed to calm down, and that's when our relationship took to the next level. We began becoming sexual and sending each other nude photos or videos. I was 16 at this point, himself being 25. This was exceptionally difficult for me as I had never kissed a boy before or had any type of crush ever. I grew up obese, being about 260 pounds at 15. But after the suicide incident in March, Howie and I knew we wanted to meet in person. From April to August of 2011, I had dropped 80 pounds by not eating and excessively exercising. Howie had an eating disorder in which he only ate once a day and ran for hours daily, or he would be on the other spectrum and eat complete garbage all day and gain 200 plus pounds just to lose it again, in which he would repeat over and over again, going from 350 pounds to 120 pounds in a year sometimes. He was athletically and physically fit from when we started speaking in 2009, so I felt the urge to be thin for him as he was constantly talking about his image. Came August of 2011, Howie flew to my city of Toronto, and we fell more deeper in love. The enigma of his enticing, mysterious persona finally was in front of my eyes, and I couldn't understand why such an attractive older man would be interested in myself. Within an hour of the first meeting, I barely spoke because I was in awe of him. We went to a restaurant and we ordered food, but I couldn't eat because I was so nervous. Howie insisted we go back to the hotel he was staying at. I hope he wasn't staying at a hostel. Holy shit. I went back with him. He immediately sat on the bed and I sat on the chair across from him. He looked at me with a mischievous half grin that I'll never forget and said, "I don't bite," while patting the spot on his bed next to him. I sat next to him and he kissed me, which was my first kiss ever. But it didn't end there, and we ended up having unprotected sex. He had came inside me, which caused panic for me because he seemed cool and collected, which I didn't question at the time. But now I understand it was because he wanted to get me pregnant. How he was constantly talking about all the problems in his life, would disappear if he had a baby daughter, yet would say things like, I would push my partner down the stairs if she was pregnant with a boy. He was adamant a baby girl would change his world, and his parents divorced when he was 16, which left him feeling abandoned and forgotten as his narcissistic mother ran off with a wealthy man immediately after the divorce. So in his mind, he believed that creating his own family would resolve his issues of feeling abandoned by his mother. Myself, being basically a child, didn't want a baby, so we went to get me the Plan B pill. Yes, that's accurate. My first time was with a 25-year-old man while I was underage and had to take the Plan B pill. Before he left to go back to England, he proposed to me, being 16 and dumb in love. I said yes. We continuously flew out to each other's countries to see each other. I left high school as he took up my entire world. Howie was very off-put when I would express that I wanted an education. He didn't understand how our relationship wasn't all that I wanted out of life. So when I started an alternative high school in 2012 at 18 years old, all hell broke loose. Our relationship was already extremely rocky, and he didn't like the male attention I would receive either. Then I would be in England with him or in Toronto on my own. I had a full-blown eating disorder by this point, losing a total of 125 pounds in a year. Howie approved of my poor eating habits as he was the one that told me to only eat once daily. I was thin and made sure my image was constantly perfect, as I felt the pressure of Howie leaving me if I didn't match his standards of what he wanted in a woman. He would constantly mention his obsession for Britney Spears and how much he masturbated over her and how he liked her body better than mine. For me, this was very hurtful as I grew up never receiving any attention from the boys and constantly faced with rejection. This made my eating disorder worsen, and he knew this as I would tell him that it did. But he continued saying such things. It got to the point where I was fainting on a regular basis from not eating. One day, fainting in my room while my bedroom door was locked. When I fainted, I hit my head against the sharp end of a table in my room and woke up in a puddle of blood as big as my own body. I went to the hospital, got stitches, and was left with a massive scar on my forehead, which I still have 3 years later. Howie never showed compassion towards me being in pain physically or emotionally. Around this time is when he started to cut himself severely deep on his arm, blaming me for being a slut. His reasoning for referring to me as a slut was because I was dressed nicely. I was always influenced by the style of Priscilla Presley and loved beautiful classic white dresses, which weren't even revealing, but Howie didn't approve. Basically, how he didn't approve. Basically, he wanted me to dress nicely in the presence of him in England and when we would go out together in England to show me off, but I wasn't allowed to back home. I was still under his spell at this point. I wasn't allowed to go out with friends or family. The drinking age is 19 in Canada, so it's not like I was even going to bars or anything remotely intimidating for a long-distance partner. I was 18 at this point and just wanted to go shopping with my friends or grab a bite to eat. But to him, this was the ultimate betrayal and would freak out and cut himself anytime I went to meet up with a female friend, causing me to have to leave and worry about him. The controlling behavior was so severe, and every single moment of every day revolved around him and how to make him feel like the center of attention. As I said earlier, his mother is a narcissist, so she would agree with his reasoning for cutting himself and would enable him to blame me for his scars. My grandmother, who raised me from birth and who I still lived with, randomly passed away that year, which itself was traumatic. But of course, the day of her death was all about him. My grandmother's funeral was a couple days after death, in which we had a Catholic Mass for her. When I told him about the Mass and funeral, he immediately freaked out and threatened to leave me if I attended the Mass and funeral, as we were both identified as atheists. I explained I was going for my grandpa and this wasn't enough. He made it the worst time of my life. He made the worst time of my life even worse, as he made it all about himself. I went to the Mass and the funeral, but I never properly grieved the death of my grandmother, as I was overwhelmed by his nonstop threats of killing himself if I attended, or him leaving me if I did so. He was pushing me further and further away from him. There were no positive benefits to the relationship. It was all just sick, twisted mind games and controlling, manipulative behavior. I felt like a caged animal. I eventually told him I needed to end the relationship and broke up with him. I was angry, confused, and vulnerable. I had met a 38-year-old businessman a couple days later who I thought would take my mind off Howie, so I went out with him, but he ended up being sadistic and raped me in a motel. 2 weeks later, I called Howie. Two weeks later, I called him while crying and told him what happened. He showed zero compassion and cut himself severely. His entire family would call me and yell at me, calling me a witch that I ruined Howie's life. I couldn't handle it anymore. Between my grandma's death, my body shrinking into thin air, but still viewing myself as ugly and fat, then rape, then his antics, all happening within a span of 1 year. I cracked and tried to kill myself with an overdose. I was hospitalized and no one knew the truth as to why I done it, because no one understood even slightly how severe all those events were to me. My parents were emotionally cold and distant, so there was no love coming from them. The only person I felt emotions for was him, even if they were the bad ones. We decided to try the relationship again. Another year of hell continued. Same type of antics, but we stuck it through. It all cracked when I went to stay with him in England for a few months at the beginning of the year of 2014. His mother came down from Wales and visited. Oh, I knew he was Welsh. I knew he was Welsh. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why right now. This type of take no responsibility, baby boy type, attention-seeking, narcissistic male, some reason runs prevalent in the UK, the Welsh, and Irish men. It's just my own opinion. It's something I noticed. They whine and whine and whine and bitch and moan, and they're the ones with these crazy conspiracy theories and then when you challenge them on it, it's like talking to a child with their boo-hoo antics. Oh, I'm not saying it's all men over there. I'm saying this type of man is one of the fucking worst, because they are just whining fucking babies. This is when it all went down. Howie's mother was having a get-together with all her kids and their partners. She has 4 children, including him, 2 other sons, and a daughter whom she constantly ostracizes from the family for whatever reason, and basically makes her the black sheep. Anyway, I was having severe abdominal pain as I have a disorder called polycystic ovarian syndrome, which causes me to have intense abdominal pain sometimes. I explained to him that I was in too much pain to attend the party, but I will attend the following day, as she only comes down rarely, so when she does, they see each other daily. His mom, let's just call her D, was completely and utterly offended that I wasn't attending, even though I explained to her it was due to my severe pain. Herself, being a narcissist, couldn't comprehend my pain and was bad-mouthing me on the phone to him while I was right there. I was fed up with her bullshit and couldn't handle her constantly bashing me. Once he hung up the phone, I told him she was a gold-digging bitch. This was the first time since 2009 of knowing about Dee and her narcissistic bullshit games that she would play on the entire family. He was daily, if not hourly, bad-mouthing his mother about her being an old gold digger who left her family for money. But I always kept my mouth shut because I felt it wasn't my place to badmouth her. But I had enough of it. But I had enough and did to him. The next day I walk in on him telling his mother I called her a gold digging bitch. She came right over to his place and immediately unleashed at me, screaming that she doesn't give a shit about me and that I am nothing to her, a nobody. How he badmouthed every single person I knew and loved, including my family, but I never told them the things he said because it was between him and I didn't see it was beneficial. He later explained that he told his mother what I said because he wanted revenge on me for getting raped. That was the last time I saw him in person. In 2014, after that trip there, I kissed him at the airport, ran down the ramp, and never turned back, leaving him. A few months later, I met a man who was basically an angel. He loved me and I loved him, but of course, he would stalk our online profiles, either on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. He would message my boyfriend and tell him I was a cheater and a whore and make up lies to try to make my boyfriend leave me. Eventually, it did cause problems in our relationship, and after 1 year of dating, my boyfriend left me in 2015. By that point, he had already moved on and had another partner who would also harass me online. She would post my address on her social media with my full name and information, saying that she's coming to kill me as I'm a slut who ruined Howie's life. All right, I know you asked me to change his name, but I'm not going to do that anymore. Because if they're going to blow up your timeline, I'm not going to let you hide from this. I'm not going to let you or him hide from this. His name is Howie. Howie the Welsh pussy boy from England. That's his name. Okay, and I'm going to explain to you why all this is happening at the end here. I never understood why she was saying these things. He must have lied to what actually had happened. No, he didn't. She's just a cunt. She's just a cunt like his mommy. That's what he found. He found a woman like his mommy. Eventually, after he left her, I found out that I was a daily topic in their relationship. And the amount of lies he told her about me to make himself like the victim are absolutely insane. His entire family believe the lies and don't know the truth, going as far as telling doctors and police that I apparently stabbed him. His mother and himself are apparently in the works trying to get a restraining order against me, is what I heard. Well, you're in Canada and he's in England. Like, who cares? There's a lot more to this story, but I tried to highlight the most important parts to get my message across at what a sadistic person he is. It's been 2 years since our official breakup, but I'm still an emotional wreck, gaining all the weight I had lost. Traumatized and afraid of men, but I'm fighting this to the end and not letting him see me die, because that's what he wants. Narcissists are black widows. They will suck the blood out of you just to spew it out and leave you breathing, not dead. Just to see you struggle for the next breath. Thank you for listening, Ollie. Okay. Now, first of all, you need to understand why Howie's doing what he's doing. Okay? Howie hates women, and he has a major fear of abandonment. His father left him. Everything he did to you was in order to control you and keep you from leaving. These older guys who go for these underage girls, okay, that's what they do. And that's why online is so friggin' dangerous. Is so dangerous. Listen, Any guy who's cutting himself is just an attention whore. He's an attention whore. He'll sit there with your mommy who fucking abandoned you for money. You little fucking faggot pussy boy. Can't stand up for yourself. I'm gonna cut myself so I can feel. Stick it up your ass. Stick it up your ass. Because if you really wanted to kill yourself, you'd cut your wrists or your throat. That's why. That's why. The reason he's telling this other girl that you tried to stab him is so he doesn't have to take responsibility for cutting himself, okay, and be exposed to the embarrassment that you're actually trying to save him from by changing his name in this letter. No. No. You're giving, see, by all this, he is scaring you into fully exposing him. That's why he's doing it. He's trying to drive you nuts and crazy to the point that you just shut up about it. If you stabbed him, why does he have all these scars so deep? Years. Scars for years before you met him. Dude, I can just hear his voice in my head with that accent. That whine, there is nothing worse than a Welshman, an Irishman, an Englishman fucking bitching like a little schoolgirl. And that's what this guy is. Never take responsibility for anything. They don't take responsibility for shit in his life. He's got a fetish for young girls. Britney Spears and all that shit. Get the hell out of here. This guy is screwed up by his mommy. Things the mother said to you are the same things my mother said about Charlene. She's nothing to me. She's nobody. You know, you've heard that on, everybody's heard that on the phone calls. Putting out your address on Facebook, turnabout's fair play. At that point, turnabout's fair play, and you don't need to hide anything. So, I will say this, and this is for everybody who's afraid or has any type of fear. If you're afraid of backlash from your narcissist over one of my videos, don't be. Because the second you get the backlash, I'm going to blow them up even more on my Facebook page and on my social media page where I have over 9,000 subscribers. And they don't want to deal with that. Don't think they don't know that. Understand, son, all this is to avoid being publicly exposed. That's why he's telling people. That's what the gaslighting's about. That's what the lies are about, to shut you up. As far as him trying to get a restraining order on you, for what? Block him from all media. Block him from everything. I would post this video right to my Facebook so everybody knows your story. And I will say to Howie, if you open your stupid, dumb, fucking Welsh baby boy mouth, your whiny, complainy, always me, blame everybody else for your fucking problems instead of mommy, where you want to be sucking on her teats, okay, however old you are, you fucking pedophile, you'll deal with me. Good luck. Good luck. You can go out back on the pile with the rest of the people who've tried to come up against me and have failed miserably. Understand what put you on the course to this. You were raised by your grandmother. Not that your grandmother was bad, a bad person. I'm not saying that, but there's something in your childhood that drew you to older men that let you be susceptible on the internet, okay, and weight issues the way you were having them before you even met them are indicative of depression, of other issues that you should, that I'm sure you have stories about your childhood that you didn't get into here, but I'm sure that's what led up to all of this and made you susceptible to all of this. It's all fear of all that accusing you of cheating, all that stems from his fear of abandonment. Because everybody in his life, once they realize what he is, runs, including his own mommy. Including his own mommy. Him not wanting you to go because you're atheist? Like, who? No. No. That's just a means of control. So I'm glad you got away from him. Stay that way. Keep that way. But don't cover for him. Don't try to hide his name anymore. Don't try to hide any of it. You have no reason to. None whatsoever. So, thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your story. I hope this helps. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover or a narcissist you'd like to expose, you know what to do with the PayPal link in the description box. I'll have the video right back to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. See you all again soon.